My guests are Orna and Matthew Walters, and they have a book called Getting It Right This Time. And I'm not talking about a puzzle, but then again, this could be a puzzle because we're going to be talking about, if I could call it, matchmaking, love, and things like that. Um, you folks have something called the soul mating system, which I want to touch on, and hopefully you're able to help us, identify self-sabotaging patterns, cultivate some good communication habits, and then also, you know, date with intention, because I think that's the one thing a lot of people either don't date or they don't date with intention. And one of the first things I want to talk to you about is something that you have called the Love Imprint. So, welcome to the show and take it away, you lovebirds.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here, Chuck.
Yeah, so happy to be here on the show, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I think you're asking us to take your listeners off on a cliff here. If we're going to dive right into your love imprint, but let's face it, we all learn how to do everything in our family of origin, and we learn to walk and talk and tie our shoes. And what most people don't take into account is that you also learn about love. And we're never going to bag on parents. We know that's the toughest job there ever will be. We always like to say your love imprint is really a decision that you made about yourself in love long before you knew who you were and how the world works.
So you want to think about it this way. If you've ever been around a newborn baby, they don't have any subconscious blocks to love. They give love freely. They receive love freely. We like to say they're the physical embodiment of the energy of love. And yet, you're born into a family system, whether it's just your parents or your parents and your siblings. And in that system, there's a whole dynamic that is already happening long before you get here. And there's a gap between the way you desire to be loved and the way your parents are capable of loving you. And in that gap, like Orna said, we make a decision. We make a decision about ourselves that says, what's wrong with me that my parent is behaving this way? How am I not able to get the love that I really need from them? Who can I be? How can I behave? What strategies can I take on in order to get the love that I really need? And it's not like it's conscious like that little baby is making these choices, but it is sort of how we're adapting to the situation, because our parents appear to us as the ultimate authority. And so they are the givers of love. And so we have to figure out, how do we get love in that situation when our parents maybe aren't completely capable of loving us in a respectful, kind, supportive way that we desire.
And sometimes we have had clients that grew up with fabulous parents and they're still wondering why they're struggling in love. So I don't know, what do we want to call that? Karma, destiny, life lessons, fate? I don't know, but I know that it really is a decision about ourselves. We have had a client where they actually didn't feel worthy of their parents' love, and they carried that into their adult relationships as well, not feeling worthy of love. And so again, it's a decision we make. So it isn't necessarily a parent's shortcomings, but it is the child's responsibility to take hold of their love life and take control of their love life, get the driver's seat of their love life if you're over 30. So if you're over 30 and it didn't magically work out for you, like buying a lottery ticket and winning, then it's time to start looking at, well, what are my dating strategies? How am I selecting a partner? Am I actually using the dating process as a selection process? Because we hear it all the time, right? You meet somebody and you're like, oh, wow, is this, do you think this is really something? And they go, well, I'm just seeing how it goes. I'm just going to see how it goes, right? And so,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, dating with intention. And it's something that, look, if you are somebody that just, wants to have fun, wants some companionship, maybe some sex, and, just enjoy life with somebody, whether it lasts or doesn't last, and you're not serious about having a beloved partnership, we don't judge. Go ahead. Keep seeing how it goes. That's cool. But the people that come to us, they've messed it up before. They've had their heart broken one too many times. They're stuck in a pattern of finding the same kind of person over and over again, and they want to break free from those bad strategies and find a beloved partnership. we always say this is where people come. They come to us when they want to share the rest of their life with the love of their life.
But you know what? You two have opened up a couple of doors for me to step through and ask some stuff or an observation and question. First of all, is about the child. So it almost sounds like that, again, not to blame the parents, but sort of, kind of. Um, it sounds like, though, if you have either an absent father or a mother when you're growing up, that's what you see, or a couple who are not affectionate in front of their children, you grow up as a non-affectionate person. You do know, or you think you know what love is, or you think you could feel love, but your love that you'd been used to seeing is no hugging, no touching, no feeling, no kiss and say goodnight, honey, and things like that. So you grow up that way, right? Or a lot of us may grow up that way.
Yes, in some version of that kind of story. One of the most common ones we see is that as a child, you're not allowed to have your emotional experience. Your parent says something like, oh, you're not upset, or don't be upset, or this isn't something to be upset about, and they dismiss your emotional experience. And so you learn to not trust your emotional life. And when you don't trust your own emotions, you don't trust your own inner GPS, you tend to look outside of yourself for validation. You tend to look for somebody else to confirm, well, does it make sense that I'm upset? Right? You're looking for that mirror back to you that says, look, everything I'm feeling is fine, it's okay, it's normal, because you don't know, because you were taught throughout your childhood that you couldn't trust your emotional experience.
Orna, I'm going to ask you this one because I'm going to still go along this I said mother. Yes, it is for a mother child, because it seems like dynamics over the years have changed a little bit, meaning that a mother has become even more overly protective of the child, also not giving them or allowing them that period to grow emotionally. They're protecting too much, and then it seems like if they grow up, they don't know what love is, because if they don't get that protection and I'm sheltering you, all of a sudden, why doesn't the person love me, or they get upset easily? Am I reading too much into this stuff?
No, I think you're on it. But I mean, we could sit here and give scenario after scenario because every person's heart is kind of uniquely wired, right? I mean, what you're talking about what's commonly known as helicopter parenting, right? Where like the whole day is structured and the child isn't making decisions for themselves, and then they struggle with making decisions. I'm not going to name names, but there's people in our family that were raised in that way. And I'll tell you, when we take that person to lunch that is now an adult, they struggle just with a simple decision of what to get, what's on the menu, and making a decision about what to eat. So this can affect other areas of our life, right? The parenting skills, but ultimately, this decision around love is so deep. It's like what it creates later in life is a false positive. Right? We're all now, since the COVID pandemic, we're all very familiar with that false negative, right? Oh, I don't have COVID. Oh, 3 days later, oh, now it's positive, right? But when it comes to love, really this idea around your love imprint is the sense of a false positive. That the mind, the subconscious mind, not this big space that analyzes and judges, not the big prefrontal cortex, but our subconscious mind has one job, and that one job is to keep us alive. So it's a very low bar in this modern world, right? You don't need a beloved life partner to survive in this modern world, right? Your subconscious doesn't know, like you're going on, you go on a dating app and you're swiping left and right looking for somebody, right? It has no concept of that. And so the mind then has one strategy for keeping us alive. And that strategy is to highlight what is familiar. So I'll give you an example. I'm sure you've had this experience, and I'm sure your listeners have had this experience, that you walk into a room, say of 50 to 100 people you've never met before. And some of those people are brighter than everybody else. It's not necessarily attraction, like a chemistry thing, but it's just something where like people pop. Some people are highlighted and brighter. And then most of the people in the room are like extras in your own personal movie. It's like they're almost gray and in the background. And I'm sure you've had this experience, and your listeners can relate, where you end up talking to one of those people. They pop, they're brighter, your eyes connect, you kind of half smile, and then you start smiling and laughing and talking, and oh my gosh, what do you discover? You have a bunch of things in common. Is it just some kind of weird coincidence? No, it's actually the power of our subconscious mind. It's the most powerful computer on earth. So it is literally in every moment taking in 2 million bits of information through our sensory experience. And it is deciding what is familiar and highlights it. Because if you've had more of the same experiences, you're more likely to survive. But there's a big flaw in the system, Chuck, because your subconscious can't judge or analyze. That's the job of the prefrontal cortex, right? And so what happens is your subconscious is highlighting these people, saying this is familiar and this is familiar. And in the dating process, people mistake that false positive as chemistry and attraction. And now they're in trouble because they end up in that same pattern, that same cycle of either attracting, a narcissist or just a selfish person on the scale of narcissism, right? Or maybe somebody who they have to try to earn love from, right? Somebody who's like hot, cold with them, somebody who shows up and then disappears and ghosts them for a while and shows up again. Or, again, we can go through scenario. And so we end up stuck in these habitual patterns, these cyclical things. And so we end up determining on some level the way we think about love is like buying a lottery ticket. Like I have no other way of saying that when Matthew and I met, and then what did we do? You know the saying, we fell in love, right? We fell in love. Like I slipped in a banana peel and I landed on Matthew.
I'm going to be that kind of devil's advocate and the guy that's really going to ask questions and doubt, because I know that a lot of listeners, viewers are probably thinking this. We're in this day and age of, like you're saying, swipe left, swipe right. We're in this digital age. And I'm not sure of the exact statistics, but what I've heard is 10% of the guys will get 80% of the women because of their looks. And I don't know on the vice versa way, but when you're just looking superficially, just on the surface, that's what happens. And people rarely, I shouldn't say rarely, but I think I see it less seldom that people go out with that intention of meeting someone. And everybody is on guard. And forgive me for saying it like this way, but this is what I've seen, and this is what my friends have said, is they're afraid to approach a woman because not less of a rejection now, but fear for what might be misconstrued as an advancement that's too advanced situation. Hi, they say, hi, how are you? Don't you touch me, that kind of thing. And they're afraid. So they're like, eh. And I have heard other statistics, even with the younger folks, where now there isn't a whole lot of dating. A lot of people are staying single. Help us break through all of that, because it is better to be with somebody to share all the experiences of love and happiness.
Exactly. Life is better when you're with a supportive, loving partner than without. We know that. Studies show that all over the place. The issue is, we can look at how people are using the apps, how the apps emphasize superficiality, like somebody's appearance, if you're swiping on a picture and you're not paying attention to other things that are going on. And we could talk about different dating strategies for breaking through that noise. But behind it is this idea that we're using a feeling to determine that this is our person or not. And that feeling, whether we call it chemistry or attraction, or whether we say, wow, it's like I looked in her eyes and I just knew that that was my person. We're using something that's very ephemeral, something that's very subjective, something that doesn't really have any basis in truth and reality, right? Because we're not determining, is this person actually good for me? Is this person somebody we share the same values? We have the same vision for our life together. Is this somebody I can navigate conflict with? Is this somebody that I can communicate with kindly and respectfully, and they'll communicate with me that way? All these other things that are so much more important. We always say chemistry is like yeast in bread. Without it, you got a cracker. And who wants a thin, crunchy cracker when you want that thick sourdough that's chewy and crunchy on the outside, right? And you need that tiny bit of yeast to make the bread rise. And if you think about chemistry that way, chemistry is this one ingredient that you add to a bunch of other ingredients that make for long-lasting love.
I would say that the biggest mistake people make in the dating process is they never evaluate the other person's capacity to meet their needs. And we ask people all the time, well, what's the difference between your needs and your wants? And they're like, I don't know. What is the difference between my needs and my wants? And a lot of times we speak with people that don't understand either. They're like, oh, I've never thought about my needs. They're so focused on trying to win love from this other person. They never think about what they want to be receiving from this other person. Right? And the reason why we were talking earlier about, how so many of our clients were told as young children they were taught not to trust their emotional state. Because how do you connect with another person? How do you create emotional intimacy? Well, it's when you share how you feel and the other person meets you at that high level of authenticity and they share how they feel. But if you don't even know how you feel, or you're looking to them for signals or something to get validation of what you're feeling, now you're in trouble. Because now you've given your power away really to a stranger. Because when you first meet them, they are a stranger. And people don't like dating. Dating is seen as like a necessary, evil, basically. And they're like, can't I just get to the person, And there is no way to find your person without the dating process. The dating process is essential. And most people rush through it like they're holding their breath, trying to get to the surface of the water or something. They're just like, they really don't like dating. And the thing is dating is part of the deal. And when you really embrace this idea of slow love, that you're not going to know your person on the first date. You're not going to know maybe even in the first few months of dating that person, if that is your person. It's just as important through the dating process to know who to deselect as it is to continue to who you should remain curious about, right? And continue dating to discover more. So there isn't something that happens, like we like to say, if you've been struggling in love, your biggest warning from us is beware of the sensation of instant intimacy. There's no such thing as instant intimacy. You're not going to know right away. And even when you're intentionally dating, I promise all of you right now that you're going to still going to feel magical when you meet your person. It's still going to feel magical. You're still going to look back on all your time together and look at those first few months and years together as this romance stage that was full of this euphoria. I will tell you something, though. The longer we're together, that romance stage in the beginning, it felt magical. We have all these seeming synchronicities, these seemingly synchronistic things that occurred, and we have all these great memories. But actually, that romance stage seems a little kind of shallow compared to the love that's between us now after everything that we've been through after all these years together. And remember, we work together, so it's kind of like dog years, too.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say the two of you are smart, and a lot of people aren't so smart when it comes to love and finding love or finding that loving partner. And again, I don't want to blame it on technology and things like that, but I certainly see that technology hasn't helped. It may have made things easier for some, but then also people are so caught up in other things, meaning in themselves. I don't have time. I'm doing this. I'm busy doing that. I gotta work. So I would imagine part of this is, like I said, it's a choice, but as an adult, we got to make the time.
Yeah.
How can you help convince the
I want to say
you're gonna say it, or I'm going to say it?
You can say it, but I have to squeak this one little thing in. We didn't start off this smart, Chuck. We did not start off smart like this when it came to love. I mean, we kind of joked that one of our qualifications for being holistic dating coaches is that between the two of us, we pretty much made every mistake that you could make when it comes to love and dating, right? So we did not, so this is from experience. This is experience-driven, like our soul mating system, for example, that's pieced together from the work that I did and the work that Matthew did. I mean, this wasn't something that happened by accident. So when you say, oh, we're smart when it comes to love, we didn't start off that way. Not at all.
We could go into all those horror stories if you have time. But I want to say this about the time issue. Beware of guarding your time as an excuse for guarding your heart. Because if you say, I don't have time to date, then you don't have time for a relationship. Because if you have a relationship, you're going to have to make time for that person in your life, just as you have to make time for dating. And so when you're making time for dating, that gets filled with the relationship when you meet your person. But if there's no time for dating, there's no time for a relationship. And so you're probably avoiding dating because of some past heartbreak. The truth is, most people, when we get to a certain age, we're dealing with heartbreak. And we're dealing with heartbreak that we really haven't fully healed. And so we have scars, we have scales, we have a scab on our heart, right? We built a moat and a wall and a castle to guard our heart so we don't experience those bad feelings again. But the truth is, you can heal your heart and open yourself up to love again, because love requires you making a risk. It requires you risking your heart. It requires, if it's your guy friends, going up to that woman, whether it's at the bar or wherever it is they're meeting them, and saying, hi, hey, I really like that shirt you're wearing. It looks good on you. And just starting with a nice, normal compliment. Right? Instead of trying to come up with a line, instead of trying to be super clever, instead of trying to, get her to fall for you on that opening, just be a normal person and be curious about somebody else.
Matthew, what happens if she goes, get out of here?
Then you just now have not wasted any more of your time with somebody who's not a good match for you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I will tell you, though, if she's
Every no leads you closer to that yes.
Yes. And if she's sitting with a girlfriend, then don't then turn to the girl next to the person and say, what about you? Okay? Like, don't play that game. I got to say, get out of there. If she turns you, it's one person turning you down. Who cares? I mean, we had a client, we have a system for dating, right? It's very structured. And we had this one client that lived in Manhattan in New York, and she took the subway a lot. And she decided to run her own experiment, kind of with our parameters, but not exactly. She kind of made it a little bit of a game where she would start talking to somebody on the subway that, maybe a guy she found attractive, made sure he wasn't wearing a wedding ring or whatever, but she doesn't know who's available and who's not available on the subway, right? So this was just kind of her own little experiment. And she said she could tell very quickly within the beginning of the conversation, she would know if the person was single or not, or if was interested or not, because the conversation would grow, or it would just be a shutdown and it was whatever, she would initiate the conversation to start. And she said she got even better the more she ran this experiment at getting to know about when the guy would ask for her contact info, right? And so the subway was literally pulling into her stop. And she said, I know he's getting close to asking for my number, so I'm staying on the subway. So she missed her stop. And as soon as the subway pulled away from her stop onto the next one and started moving again, he turned to her and asked for her phone number. And she gave the number, and, they had their little chit chat, and then they pulled up at the next stop. And of course, now that she missed her stop, she went to get up, and he starts getting up, and he says, oh, how fortuitous. We have the same subway stop too.
Oh,
right?
gosh.
And so, look, not everybody that you approach is going to be your person, but you'll never know if you don't take the risk. And remember, you're not risking your heart at the start. You're risking meeting with that person one time, right? Like, guys, your goal is to get to the first date. That's it. If she turns you down, again, every no brings you closer to a yes. And ladies, look, there's a lot of discussion about, a lot of women, especially young women that date men, are dating like men, in that they're the ones pursuing, they're the ones initiating contact, they're the ones asking them out and making time and paying for the date and doing the heavy lifting, as we like to call it. And you know what? If you're satisfied in that position, in that dynamic, great. But most of the ladies we talk to, no matter their age, about 3 to 6 months into dating somebody where they're doing the heavy lifting, they want the roles to now switch where the guy starts doing the heavy lifting. And I hate to tell you, ladies, that is ultimately a bait and switch. If you want to be with a beloved life partner, I don't care the age, the guy will basically, it's like if you say jump, he'll say how high. I mean, we were at home a few years back. Our niece was living with us for a few months when she started grad school, and in real time, she comes in. She's like, "This guy keeps texting me and asking me out via text, and I'd rather that he call me for the date." And we literally coached her in real time, and that phone rang in less than a minute. So if the guy is interested in having a relationship with you, it's not going to be a mystery. A guy is not subtle if he's interested in you for a relationship. The only time a guy is a mystery is if he's just looking for some companionship and sex. Let's face it, right? If he's just looking for companionship and sex and not really a relationship with you, he'll be hot, cold. He'll let you do all the heavy lifting. He doesn't care to bring more joy.
He'll play the wait and see game.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. He's not going to show up like a guy who wants a relationship, because that guy is going to behave very differently.
Yeah, we would hope.
No, they do. I don't care.
Let me tell you this, Chuck. So I discovered years later, after Orna and I were working together, I was talking to a college friend, and she was asking me relationship advice. And at some point she stopped, and kind of an aside to herself, but out loud, she said, "I can't believe I'm getting relationship advice from the guy I used to call the toxic bachelor." Because I used to be that guy. I used to be hot and cold. I used to ghost women. I used to be like, I don't know, maybe. And then we'd hook up again, and then be like, I'd sort of act like I was in, and then I'd get bored and I'd pull out. And I was the worst. And then at some point in my 30s, my early 30s, I started looking at my life and what I was doing and why I was doing it. And I started going, you know what? I'm actually in control of my own happiness. So I need to start acting like that instead of letting the world tell me whether I should be happy or not. And you know what? Actually, I think I do want a relationship. And I started behaving differently.
And I just want everybody to know I never once had to ask Matthew, where is this going? Never. He showed me every step of the way that he wanted a relationship with me. He wanted to meet his friends, his family, become part of his family, get married. I mean, it was never a question. I never once had to ask.
A relationship-minded man, at some point in his life, he goes, I'm going to go find my woman, right? And he goes and he pursues and he asks women out and he reaches out and he tries to find that woman who's going to be his person. And if you're sitting back and you're expecting her to show up and her to do the work and her to let you know before you commit any of your heart or your time, then you're behaving like I was, like the toxic bachelor.
Before we continue, what I want to talk to you about is like age and things like that. But I just want to remind folks that I'm here having a conversation with Orna and Matthew Walters from their book, Getting It Right This Time. And you can find their website at loveonpurpose.com. So, yeah, so continuing on this, I'm glad you're kind of talking about the age, because I was thinking in my head, 30s is different from the 50s, it's different from the 60s. 30s, I was thinking, for at least from a male standpoint, is I want that relationship ready to start a family kind of thing. I know they start younger, but I'm just saying for the 30s. And then 50s, and women do this too now, 50s, you're going, I need a hot young girl. I need somebody younger than me. And then 60, and the reason I bring this up is I have had several friends, I'll say even this year, 4 in their 60s or 59, who have lost their lifelong partner, their wife. And my conversation with them is, and they said, I don't know what I'm going to do now because we had our plan. So I think some of them or all of them are content with the fact that they're going to live out the rest of their lives alone because of whatever reason.
Well, statistically, they're in the minority, so things might change over time. So whether it's losing a spouse through death or through divorce, statistically, men find their next relationship much faster than women. Much, much faster.
I know
On the,
some that just jump right to another relationship. Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, most
Generally-
relationship-minded men, if you've been in a happy relationship, I mean, or not, right? Either if it ended in divorce or through death, it's much more likely that a man gets into the next relationship much faster than most women by a long shot. Now, I'll tell you, men who have single, never married over 50, that's a long shot that they'll ever get married. So that's, I mean, I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's teeny, teeny, tiny, right? So, I mean, not everybody that's, over 40 or over 50 or over 60 wants to get married, whether they've been, married before or not. That's a personal choice, right? We always like to say a beloved life partner, right? Whether you actually go and get, the actual wedding certificate and get, all of that stuff involved, that's a personal choice and something that everybody gets to decide within the couple if that's something they want to do together, right? We always say you get to craft your own true soul partnership when you're with your person, but you need to have an idea of what that looks like. I know Matthew and I didn't get together till over 40, and we both had the vision of a life where our personal life and our professional life was somehow blended together. Now, we didn't know that we would end up working together and having a business together and spending as much time together as we do, because we spend an awful lot of time together working together and being married to each other. But it was something we both really wanted and both individually envisioned before we ever met each other. Right? We were already in alignment on that shared vision.
Well, I think that may go along with what you said at the very beginning, the two of you, where we need to know what our needs are and not just what our wants. And I think that's where it comes into, like I said, that age breakdown. For me, you're in your 30s, a male. I want a family. I want a relationship. You get to 50s, if you're divorced, whatever. It's, well, I need, and then now it's like, I want that younger, whatever it is, to make me feel better or whatever it might be. So I definitely see the difference between want and need. You have to really be able to tell yourself, what is it that I want, but what is it that I need? How do we change? There has to be a way to help people change their mind and to look and realize that all they're doing is want, want, want.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, your wants are negotiable. Your needs are not. But what we tend to do is we negotiate our needs to meet our wants. Right? Speaking of that older man who finds that younger, pretty wife, he may not need, he probably won't get what he needs from her in terms of emotionally, in terms of a partnership that maybe he's looking for. But he's going to probably get some of his wants fulfilled in that relationship because he's got a younger woman who, let's face it, is probably doesn't know herself as well as an older woman, and so therefore is more pliable, more open to his influence, as opposed to a woman who's more mature and is clear on who she is and what she wants and won't put up with anything that doesn't fit there. And I think it's a level of confidence in the man, right? A confident man isn't going to have any problem with a woman who knows what she wants. He's just going to say, either, yes, I have what you want and you're what I want, or no, I actually don't have what you want. Good luck finding somebody who does. Meaning not good luck, but meaning good luck. I'm sure you're going to find it, right? Not a blow off. I didn't mean it to sound like that.
And I do want to say, statistically, in this day and age, more older women are hooking up and spending time and having a relationship. I said hook up, and I want to change that, actually. Let me go back. Let me rewind the tape. Right? Like, more women are the older one in that, relationship. More older women are ending up pairing up and having a relationship with younger men by a long shot. That is not just something that you see in the celebrity tabloids at the supermarket on the stands. That's actually much more common now, that older women are actually, having relationships and getting married to younger men. So it isn't, I don't know that age has a lot to do with the breakdown of how people get together. I think it's unfortunate that we just overall in our society think that things just happen if they're like meant to be or something. You know, this idea
Yeah.
that love is either fated for you or not fated for you. And I just want to let everybody know love doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care your age. It doesn't care where you live, whether it's a bustling metropolis or a tiny rural community. We always think those are the two reasons people give why they struggle in love. We'll ask them at the beginning of getting to know them, why do you think you've been struggling in love? And the two reasons they give the most is their age, either too young or too old, or where they live. Where they live is always part of a problem that's a made up reason. It's literally a made up reason. And it's because as a society, we're sold this myth from birth. From the moment you pop out of the womb, you're told everything in life worth having. You should get educated, practice, have a skill set. And yet the most important decision you'll ever make is who you share your life with. And we are sold the myth that we just leave it to chance, like buying a lottery ticket. And I take this very seriously. I mean, I don't want to be a downer or anything, but I chose the wrong person in my 20s. It almost cost me my life. So as a survivor of domestic violence, I take it very seriously that you need to take your time in getting to know somebody. You won't instantly know who's your person. And I know that's kind of a downer, y'all, but I want to say it'll be worth it, because when you're with that person, like I know I can count on Matthew as sure as I know the sun will rise tomorrow. It's not
You're a good man,
not a
Matthew.
question in my mind. Yeah, it's not a question.
You know, jokingly, half jokingly, I want to say that there is a problem when, first of all, Orna, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it isn't just men with younger women, because I actually, I have a friend, his wife is 15 years older than he is. So he knew long ago, because they've been married like 30 years. But half jokingly, if the gal is, if you say, oh, we're going to go see Roger Daltrey tomorrow, and she says, who? And you say, exactly who? And she says, yeah, who? You know you're in trouble. Right?
Good who's on first conversation there, brought into the love and dating space. That's pretty good there.
You can say, no, guess who? No, that's a different band.
Right.
I mean, look, we know a couple that have been together a very long time, and she's a considerable amount younger. They're dear friends of ours, and you know, it works for them. I mean, you again, knowing the difference between your needs and your wants as an individual long before you settle on who your person is really settles up a lot of things. You know
What's interesting about that? Sorry, I just want to hit that. The age thing is East Coast, West Coast. There is a difference on the mentality of age between the couples. It always seems like that. And I met a gal. She was 27. We had a great conversation. She said, yeah, she says, I date men 40 and above. West Coast, unless you're a movie star or whatever, it just seems different. We look at it different. And she said it's because I know what I want and need. And he knows what he wants. So it was that companionship of a younger person is how she explained it to me. And she said, I want that excitement, that financial stability of the older person who's successful. So she gets what she wants and what she needs.
The key is to realize there is no one size fits all when it comes to relationship. You
Okay.
create your unique relationship. Orna mentioned earlier, we work together. We're pretty much together 24/7. Unless one of us, for some reason, is off with friends, we're together because we're together at work, we're together before work, we're together after work, we're together all night. And it's a unique way of living. And it's not for everyone. We saw this during COVID. Suddenly people were in their space together all day long instead of disappearing to work for 8 to 10 hours. And they suddenly were like, who is this person? What are those? I can't. And people broke up because they realized they couldn't get along when they were together all the time. Having the skills to communicate, having the skills to navigate your differences, because in any relationship, you're in relationship with somebody who is not you. They have different thoughts, different feelings, different background, different strategies. And if you don't know how to defer to each other's strengths, you're going to be in a power struggle because you're going to be thinking, say you're the older guy and the younger woman, you're going to be thinking, well, I got a lot more experience, so I know how this works, so we're going to do it my way. Well, that's not a relationship, because a relationship has a give and take in it. And it lets the other person step into their strengths and values, step into their skills that they're really good at. And you defer to each other, and that makes a really great team.
It makes me quickly think of Dolly Parton and her husband.
Oh, yeah.
Rarely ever saw him, but he was always there by her side, not physically, but they had totally different roles, and they knew what they needed and what they wanted. And I thought that was so beautiful, that type of relationship that they had.
Yeah, I mean that's what we all want, right? And yet we're waiting for it to just happen by accident. And
Yeah.
look, the problem about doing it accidentally, and everybody has the story of the person where it worked that way, right? And it's like saying, oh, I'm going to be Michael Jordan, or I'm going to be, right? Some people have the skills, right? Some people, like we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Some people come in with love skills, right? They don't have to learn how to do it. It's part of who they are or how they were raised and the decisions they made weren't part of the problem. That's why we always say, look, if you want a beloved life partner and you haven't figured it out on your own by the time you're 30, you probably need a little bit of adjustment in your strategies. And that's really what we're talking about, because we make these decisions and they become our beliefs, right? Like Chuck, were you somebody who was raised to believe in Santa Claus when you grew up?
No, I don't think we were told that Santa Claus is real.
Okay. I mean, that's unique. That's fine. I was raised Jewish, so I wasn't raised to believe in Santa Claus. But when we ask somebody, were you raised to believe in Santa Claus? And you can imagine them saying yes, right? And we say, well, when you found out that Santa Claus wasn't real, were you upset? And usually people remember that moment. They're like, oh gosh, yeah, I was really upset. And we say, are you still upset about it now? And they usually giggle, right? They say no, and if they have kids, if they've raised kids, they're like, oh, I even raised my kids in believing in Santa Claus, right? It's not something there's still, but we have this, because our society, has this myth that's just like, we're just stuck in this ridiculous myth that, oh, when I'm just going about my mundane activities, going to Starbucks and whatever, I'm going to somewhere along the way bump into this beloved life partner where everything's easy and we don't have any. I mean, look, there are 5 stages of relationship, and most people only know the first 2. We've talked about them already, right? The romance stage, and that is a chemical high. Science has proven that sensation we call falling in love is supposed to be alike to heroin. You are on a chemical high. And in that chemical high, you see that person through rose-colored glasses. And you think, oh, we're of the same mind. This is my perfect partner, right? And then somewhere along the way, oh, the chemicals start to wear off. And no couple skips the power struggle stage. That's the second stage of relationship. And in that power struggle stage, as Matthew so beautifully said it, it's important that you learn to navigate your differences, because you are 2 different people. Under stress and duress, it is normal. It's appropriate for people to resort to old strategies. That's another reason why a lot of couples split up during the pandemic or right after the pandemic. We saw so many divorces through people that we know, even into 2021 and 2022 and even into 2023. They couldn't make it work. And so the third stage of relationship is, once you learn how to defer to one another's strengths, you end up in the stability stage. And the stability stage is where the couple bonds together, and it's kind of like a you and me against the world. It's like, we can overcome any obstacles because they've been through this power struggle stage together. And then it's the 4th stage of relationship. That's the commitment stage. And that doesn't mean exclusivity. That's where it's appropriate. You go, we know how to get through the power struggle. We know how to defer to our differences and create harmony together. And we've been through the stability stage where we bonded together. And the commitment stage is, I see who you are, warts and all, and I choose you anyway. It's like finding that person in the as-is section at IKEA, right? They're already assembled. You don't have to try to figure out putting it together. Maybe it's not perfect. It's got a little scratch, a little bump, a little ding. And you're like, I'm going to take this home and love it exactly as is. You don't need the other person to change. You accept each other as you are. And you say, if you never change, this works for me. And then the fifth stage of relationship that so many couples, it's like elusive for most people because they just lather, rinse, repeat those first two stages, moving from one person to the next or within the same relationship. The fifth stage is known as the bliss or co-creation stage, right? For couples that come together to raise children, this is that part. It's the love between two people is so great, it spills out into the community. So traditionally, having children, raising them in the community. But for older couples, there's lots of ways. You can see couples that are older and come together and they're of benefit of some kind, whether it's locally and they work, maybe at the animal shelter. They donate some of their time doing something that makes their world around them a better place because there's so much love there. They want to share it in some way, right? They want to share it in some fundamental way that makes the world around them even better. And once you've been through those 5 stages, yes, you go through them in order the first time. Then it gets a lot of fun later on because you start hopscotching around. And I'll say that Matthew and I have had, that darn power struggle stage come back, and we've also had the renaissance of the romance phase as well.
There's a key moment when the power struggle is able to transition to the stability stage. And it's a decision that both people in the relationship have to make. They have to put aside their ego desires to be right. I need you to see it my way. I need you to agree with my interpretation of events. I need you to go along with my strategies. And instead of being in that ego place of being right, you have to choose the relationship over your own ego desires and needs. And that's hard sometimes. That's hard for people to do because it feels like you're giving something up. It feels like, oh, if I let go of my need to be right in this sentence, then that means I'm wrong, and this person and everything I believe collapses, right? And so that's why people get stuck in that power struggle, because on a certain level in the subconscious, it does feel life or death, but it's not. And when you can both say, I choose you, and I choose you anyway, and I don't need you to change, and I'm going to continue to navigate our differences together as we move through life, then there's so much love there. There's so much joy. Yeah, every once in a while, you're going to bump heads and you're going to disagree, but you're going to be able to work it out. You're going to work through it because you realize you're better together than apart.
A lot of this sounds like it has a lot to do with the self. You're dealing with your subconscious, you're dealing with your conscious, and you're dealing with your emotions. And I know we've touched on all 3 of those a lot, but I was wondering if there's something that you could help all of us with on the emotional mastery, how we can really start, building that true emotional intelligence to be smart enough to realize what we need and maybe a little of what we want.
Yeah. Oh, what a great question, Chuck. That's really beautifully said. I will say this. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And so, again, if you were raised in a family where you were told, not to trust your feelings, I'll give you something to be upset about. I kind of grew up in a family like that. I didn't trust my feeling state. And so part of it is really exercising your new authenticity muscles. We judge the success of our communication. We tend to judge the success of our communication by the response we get from the other person, which is literally giving our power away to this other person to say you either said it right or wrong or didn't do it right, or if they get upset and you're suddenly like, oh gosh, you clam up again. There's those people, we call them the volcano, right? It's like they hold on to stuff and hold on to stuff and hold on to stuff and hold on to stuff, and then they can't take it anymore. There's this emotional explosion and lava's all over them and the other person, like, oh gosh, I don't know how to do this. The process starts all over again where they clam up and explode again. Oh my gosh. We have these colloquialisms, especially in relationship, that drive me crazy, right? We hear this thing, oh, pick your battles. It's like, well, I'm not at war with my husband. I don't have to pick my battles. If I'm upset at 0.00005, I can be like, hey, I have this little oyster fork thing I want to clean up between us. He'll be like, oh yeah, what's going on, And we just clean it up. So really this idea of really being in touch with your own emotional state and getting in the practice of speaking how you feel to another person, I remember once we gave a client a specific exercise in speaking her feelings, and she said, well, aren't people going to get annoyed with me when I'm complaining all the time? And I was like, oh gosh, that says a lot about, she thinks feelings are only negative. And I was like, I mean, I remember when Matthew and I started dating, I started saying, oh, I really like that. And he'd be like, oh, great. And then he would do that thing some more. It's like sharing your feelings means the whole spectrum of feelings, right? The times you're feeling great, the times you're feeling annoyed, and everything in between. So it's practice. There's practice involved in being okay with your feeling state and how you're behaving. And if you're looking for somebody else to validate that you're doing it right, oh my gosh, please don't give your power away like that, and run to your nearest bookstore or go online and get our book right away. There's an entire chapter on mastering your emotional life, because I gave you just like the teeniest little piece out of it, but there's an entire chapter on it. Because really the most, again, like connecting with yourself in such a way where you know how you feel and you can say to somebody, this is what's going on with me, and then be curious about what's going on with them. That's what we would say comes when you've had a disagreement. That's part of the repair process. When you're not talking about what the other person did, well, you did this and you did that and you. Instead, it's I. It's like, oh, this is what's going on with me. I was feeling this and I was afraid of that and this, really speaking up for yourself. And then hearing and being curious, oh, that's what's going on with my partner. Oh my gosh, oh, I had no idea that's what was going on with you. And now you can find your way back to each other so that your love grows deeper and deeper over time.
We have a saying. We say that all judgment at its root is self-judgment. And what we mean is all of those things that other people are doing that are annoying you are pressing on some sensitivity or pain or hurt that you have inside of you. And when you stop wishing that other people would change and the world would be different, and instead go, okay, what's really going on with me that this is bothering me so much? For example, it took me a long time to realize that my need to get other people to behave a certain way came from anxiety that I had that was underneath a lot of what was going on. And I didn't think I was an anxious person. I wasn't fearful. I wasn't somebody who wouldn't go outside because, oh my God, what might happen? Right? Yet I had an underlying feeling that there was always something wrong. And when I was able to label it and say, oh, I'm feeling anxiety. Oh, that's what's driving my need to try to control this other person's behavior. Because my anxiety says something's not right. And so it's looking outside of me for a problem that I can fix so that things feel right. But you can't go through the world that way because you can't control other people. You can't make them behave a certain way so that you feel better about yourself. You have to feel better about yourself, and then the other person's behavior doesn't bother you. It's just, oh, well, that's who they are. I can either accept that and have them in my life, or not accept it and not have them in my life. I don't have to make them wrong or bad. They're just different.
Such a simple concept in life itself, and so many people just can't do it or don't understand.
But all the great spiritual truths are simple when you say them, but they're just difficult to actually do.
They're difficult in practice, right? I mean, here, let's give you a little takeaway, right? You gave part of the equation, but let's give the whole thing, right? We call this the responsibility equation, right? So if someone has a problem with you, it's their problem. And when you have a problem with someone, oh, now it's your problem. Our niece, when our niece was in high school, she came and stayed with us over spring break, and she heard us coach a lot, and had some takeaways. We never knew what was sinking in or not, but like 2 days back at school, she calls me up and she's like, "What's that thing you guys say, the responsibility equation?" So I said it again to her, and she says, "I have a problem." Because there was this girl that bugged her at school, and she kept wanting to make her the problem, but she was bothering her. And the beautiful thing about it is we gave her a little coaching around it, and she ended up making a new friend. She turned the person she, quote, had a problem with into a friend, and they're still friends, like a lifelong friendship. So when we can understand that what's going on with us belongs to us, then you can also, on the other side of the equation, I remember I had a boyfriend once who said to me, "You're overreacting." And I said, "Where's the meter?" And you should have seen his face. He was like, "What?" I said, where's the meter? You're saying I'm in the red. Where's the meter? I'm behaving in a way you may not like, but that doesn't mean I'm over anything. I'm upset, and this is an appropriate response to my upset. You may not like it, but I'm not over. Don't say I'm over anything unless you can show me the meter.
That, you know, kind of along with that, and this isn't for everything or every situation or everyone, but I think when people get so emotional, and say couples together, one is angry, and whether they say I hate you or I hate whatever it is, that's at that moment. This is what I always think. That's that moment that they hate. Or even if a child says, I hate you, mom, I hate you, dad, that's that moment. It's not a forever thing. It goes away. So don't hold it against that person that you're in love with or together with that says, you know, I hate whatever it is, and hold it.
Yeah, and in those moments, that person is probably triggered.
Yeah.
And this part of their brain, the reasoning, the logical part of the brain is offline. They're responding from their animal reptilian brain, which is fight, flight, freeze. And they're trying to feel safe. And when you realize that about the other person, we started this early on in our relationship. When Orna would be upset or I would be upset, we in our own minds, I could look at Orna and I'd say, oh, that's little Orna. That's that little 5-year-old girl who doesn't feel safe in her family. And that's who I'm talking to right now. I'm not talking to this adult, wonderful, smart, brilliant woman that I'm married to. I'm talking to that 5-year-old. And when I think that way, I'm going to have a different response to her upset.
But you thought it. You didn't say it out loud.
No, not at all.
No, but I picture Matthew, and he's upset. He's the youngest of 5. His sister's the oldest, and there's this picture. It's in black and white, and his sister's holding him, and he's crying. He's like a toddler age, you know, and he's definitely upset. It's a still picture, but you can tell he's crying, and he's very unhappy. And so when he gets upset, I remember, oh, I'm really dealing with this little boy. Like, he's just feeling scared or hurt, you know, and so. I love that you circled back to where we started at the beginning, right? So we were talking about feelings, because we said don't pick a partner based solely on a feeling, because all of your feelings are temporary. You know, when we say get in touch with your feeling state, not because they're so important, but because that's how you connect with another person. That's why it's important to know how you're feeling, to then create emotional intimacy. But don't get so attached, because your feelings are momentary. None of your feeling lasts. They're all just ephemeral, right? And we're complex as human beings. You can be at an event and feel some way about the event you're attending. You can also feel very differently about the person you're with at the event, right? So all of these things are layered. We're complex as people. But when we understand that our feelings are important to create connection with another person, whether that's your partner or your children or your coworker or your boss or your cousin or your grandma, right? Whatever it is, when you really commit to learning more about yourself and discovering your feeling state so you can communicate it to someone else, you'll start to find that you can create a deeper connection with all the people in your life if you choose to.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a way of creating connection. And that, like you said, right, with your partner, yeah, you're going to be angry at them sometimes. I mean, I love Matthew with every fiber of my being. Have I been angry at him? Oh, yeah. Will I be angry at him again in the future? I'm sure I will. It will pass. We'll find our way through. And that's what makes love grow deeper, right? There's actually a practice that's in the book. Oh, I almost held it up upside down. You haven't seen it yet. It's getting it right this time. There is a practice in here that teaches you how to take a conflict and turn it into a deeper connection. So if you're struggling in your love life because you think, oh, you're going to find that one unicorn of a person you never disagree with, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. That's not going to happen. If you share your life with somebody, you're going to face challenges. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to get upset at each other sometimes. And that's not the end of the world. When you know how to take a conflict and turn it into a deeper connection, you now have the skill for lasting love, so that you can select an ideal partner, have a repair, and then your love grows deeper and deeper and deeper over time.
Matthew, I'm glad that, excuse me, that you gave that example of Orna being that 5-year-old, because a lot of times we do use that phrase, quit acting like a 5-year-old. don't say it out loud. You could think, and then if that's what you're thinking, understand that, okay, that's how they are being emotionally or whatever it is right now. How would you actually deal with the 5-year-old? You know, maybe listen and don't be yelling at the person. Don't be combative towards them, because all you're going to do is fuel that fire. Just go, okay, she's acting like a 5-year-old. Oh, are you okay? Is everything all right? What's wrong? That might de-escalate things.
Yeah. You have empathy for the person if you look at them like that child. Because you have empathy for the child, right? I remember once, this was early on, Orna was triggered. It was a very late night fight. We were both very tired. And finally I just started repeating to her over and over again, "What do you need? I love you."
Actually, you said I'm sorry first.
I said, "I'm sorry. What do you need? I love you." "I'm sorry. What do you need? I love you." Right? Because at that point, I realized what was going on with her wasn't about me. I mean, yeah, I was probably the impetus. I was probably the trigger that started the whole thing. But the level at which she was upset wasn't personal. It was that 5-year-old girl who grew up in that family that was not very loving, right? Who grew up in that environment that didn't feel safe. And so here she was reacting from that little girl who didn't feel safe in the world. Now, how can she feel safe? She can get bigger, she can get louder, right? So she feels safe. And if I don't take that personally, instead I say, "I'm sorry, I love you, what do you need?" And I think I repeated it about 10 times before she calmed down and she's like, "Huh."
You're not the enemy anymore. Yeah, I mean, look, when you're every human being, it's appropriate to get triggered. You get triggered, and we get triggered. I mean, we've had every client at some point ask us, "Do you guys fight?" And we're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "What does it sound like?" We go, "It sounds like a fight. What do you think it sounds like?" But it's what we do with a fight. It's right, like Matthew was just explaining, right? Because sometimes it's him. Sometimes he's the one that's so triggered, and I'm like, I take a deep breath, and I calm down and I listen. Right? And sometimes I'm the one that says, "I'm sorry. I love you. What do you need?" Right? And it takes a while sometimes to come from that place of empathy and not the ego, right? Where the person's you think they're like, it feels like an attack. You're like, "Wait, I didn't do anything." You want to defend yourself. "It's not me. I didn't do anything." And that just escalates things, even if you're just trying to calm things down, right? I remember the first time Matthew didn't escalate by saying, "Oh, it's not a big deal." Like when we started working together, something would happen in our business, and he'd say, "Oh, it's not a big deal." I'm like, "Wah!" Nobody ever has calmed down in the history of human beings. Nobody has ever calmed down by saying, "Calm down," right? Like that's not how it works. Like first validate. If you love somebody, you want to validate their feelings first. "Oh, I hear you're really upset about this. Okay, why don't we get in a problem solving mode and see how we can fix things?" "Oh, okay," right? I want to remind people that we have unrealistic expectations of ourselves and our partners, right? We think that, "Oh my gosh, I want to do things perfectly." People don't do things perfectly, right? We're not machines. We make mistakes. We mess things up. And having integrity doesn't mean we don't make a mistake. Having integrity is how we behave when we make a mistake, right? And that's when I say I can count on Matthew as sure as I know the sun will rise tomorrow, is because if things go south with us at any time, I can count on him to take responsibility for his part, come to me and fix it with me, that we're going to repair and fix it. And because of that, our love grows deeper. And so it's really important not to have this unrealistic expectation, because if you're a single person right now, you know that you still have challenges as a single person. Life throws you curveballs, right? Whether you're partnered up or not. But when you have a life partner, when you have someone you can count on to share your life with, so much of life gets better. Studies have proven, right? What people live longer, they're more productive at work, they are happier, right? There's all of these things also go in the other direction. If you're in an unhealthy, in a toxic relationship, or God, forbid, an abusive relationship, there's a way out of that cycle and to come into wholeness on your own first, so you can pick an ideal partner. They won't be like you. They'll be complementary to you, right? So that you have different strengths and weaknesses. And nature does that for a reason. It's part of the survival of the species, right? If you were starting a business today, you wouldn't want to have people on your board or in your C-suite that are just like you. You would want everybody to have different strengths and weaknesses, and nature works the same way, right? You can't forego that chemistry and attraction. It's the one ingredient in the mix that you need to stick it out for a lifetime with somebody. And so people think, oh, they either leverage it all on chemistry or they try to go without it. And you can't go either way with that. It's got to be in the mix. But we're sort of blinded, right? This idea that love is blind comes from this idea that when you come together in the romance stage, you're blinded to the fact that you're different. And in the power struggle stage, you discover, oh, we are different.
I want to say one thing about the getting upset, because the examples we gave were people escalating. But there's many different strategies for when you're triggered. Some people withdraw and clam up and stonewall their partner. Other people, and this happens a lot with men that we work with, they get hyper logical. Let's just take all emotion out of it and let's just look logically at what's going on. See, you said this and I said this and that's what this means, right? We get hyper logical about the situation. But that too is a triggered state because you're not present with your feelings, you're not present with your partner. So it's being able to recognize how it happens inside of you so that you can be responsible for regulating your own emotional life and not put it on the other person to make you feel better.
Well, Orna, can you remind everybody where they could go to find your book, find out more information, because there's so much to this. I think there's so much to it for personal self-growth, not just as couples, but to realize who you are inside. So
absolutely, you're
hope
so
you didn't mind me
sweet.
throwing that out there.
It's been so fun. So our website is loveonpurpose.com, loveonpurpose.com, and you can find out everything there. I mean, so we have a huge blog with hundreds of articles. It has a very robust search if there's something specific you want. There's also a page just for the book where you can select your favorite retailer. Or if you're a book person, please go to a physical bookstore where you live. And it should be in the store. We've been finding them on our book tour route right now in Austin, Texas. We found it on the shelf yesterday in the local Barnes & Nobles here. So whether it's a Barnes & Noble or an indie bookstore, if you're a book person, please support an actual bookstore in the world, a brick and mortar retailer. You can, of course, get it online. So you can get it everywhere books are sold. Can you get it on Amazon? Yes, you can if you want to feed that Amazon beast. And it is available in hardcover, as an ebook, and as an audiobook. And we were hired to narrate our own audiobook. So if you choose the audiobook, you'll hear us alternating chapters as we read through it.
Matthew, Orna, Walters, this has been, I'll use eye-opening and quite the experience. I'm going to go get a sheet of paper and a pen, and I'm going to make a line down the middle, have my wants and my needs.
I like it.
This has been great. So thank you very much for spending your time with all of us, and best of luck on the continued book tour.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was really wonderful. And thank you for your very insightful questions, because you gave us so much. You asked some really insightful questions that gave us an opportunity to really share so much. And I just want to thank you for that, because that's a skill in and of itself to be a good host.